Our top story this evening, iPhone maker Foxconn, Apple's largest assembler in India, has reportedly asked its Chinese workers in the country to return home. The move is seen as a major setback to Apple's ambitions of scaling up manufacturing in India. While the reason behind Foxconn's decision remains unclear, the development comes months after Chinese authorities verbally urged local agencies to curb technology transfers and restrict exports of equipment to India and Southeast Asia. As hundreds of Chinese technicians exit Apple's supply chain and electronics manufacturing units, Indian governments also say companies must now find ways to manage and retain talent locally. Beijing has not issued any formal curbs yet, but signs point to a tightening grip on both talent and tech exports. How does this really impact India's bid to boost manufacturing in the country, and why is China resorting to these measures? Joining me now to discuss this further is Einar Tangen, Senior Fellow, Taihe Institute and founder Asia Narratives. He's joining us from China, from Beijing. Thank you very much for being with us, Einar Tangen. Over the last few months, we're seeing a growing sense that China is imposing informal economic sanctions on India. We saw that with rare earth, we're seeing that with specialty fertilizers, and now we're seeing China demanding that its workers who were there at Foxconn's plants in India return home. Why do you think this is happening?
A lot of it has to do with the geopolitical situation, the sense that India is siding with the United States, and that India would become a low-cost center for exporting the kind of things that are currently coming from China. I don't think anyone has any. It's no secret that the U.S. and China are at loggerheads. That the U.S. wants to impose a kind of global hegemony, and that they want China to be contained. So China is taking strategic moves to make sure that it doesn't help another country become a low-cost market. But, as what happened with the U.S., that doesn't always necessarily work out the way you want. I mean, India has a tremendous number of very talented young people in engineering, and it's probable that they will continue to try to find ways around that, workarounds, and get the kind of experience that they may need. The difficulty is that the semiconductor industry is extremely precise. You have to have everything, the specs for this kind of equipment and operating it don't exist in any university. They're literally made as you go along. So it might take a little while, but I'm sure India is quite capable of coming up with indigenous innovation itself.
Right. Would you say that this move is clearly aimed at preventing diversification of supply chains and diversification towards India? Apple was wanting to make India a base for iPhone manufacturing for the US market specifically. Is this a move now to prevent India from becoming a manufacturer for Apple on a large scale?
I think you're looking at it from one side, from the Beijing side. What they don't want to do is have companies that they put a tremendous amount of investment in, including Foxconn. Remember that China has been their base. They got incredible deals on land and all this type of thing, and they made a tremendous amount of money in China. They do not want to subsidize a company like that going abroad and establishing a new, as they say, low-cost base for the American market, American and European markets. They don't see the necessity of cooperating with that. And I think there's a certain amount of that going on.
Right. Are we going to see a worsening of these informal economic sanctions, so to say, in our tangent? We've seen the rare earth issue. We've seen curbs on electronic components. Do you think there are more areas where China would like to impose such curbs?
I don't know specific areas. There are areas that they could do. I mean, they're 35% of the manufacturing. There's a lot of components, but it's not a broad side. They're trying to keep technology, as I said. Their concern is that the companies that they subsidized and created are basically trying to take advantage of the system and move to low-cost bases that are going to serve the U.S. As I said, there's a trade conflict going on between these two countries, and they're going to move strategically to protect their assets. In terms of overall, though, China has been very willing to share technology, not something that the US or Europe has been willing to do. China is doing joint development in the Middle East, Africa, South America, parts of Europe, in the stands, and throughout Southeast Asia. They have a willingness to do that, but with countries that are part of the Belt and Road, that they believe are going to be more complementary and not try to use this against China.
Right. Einar Tangen, in the recent few weeks, there have been high-level visits. Sun Weidong, the Vice Foreign Minister, visited India. You've got Rajnath Singh, India's Defense Minister. He visited China. You've had NSA Doval visiting China also for the SCO Defense Ministers meeting, and also before that. Why do you think India and China are not being able to break the ice? Clearly, there is tension between both nations. And how much of these economic sanctions is because of India-China tensions, and how much of it is because of China-US relations?
Well, I mean, it's a troubled triangle. And what you have is a situation where trust has been eroded since the Doklam incident in particular. And both sides are very, very suspicious of each other. Trust is not something that you earn in one meeting. It's something that has to be developed over time. And unfortunately, there have been a number of incidences where trust has been destroyed. And putting aside who's to blame, the issue is there isn't that trust. It has to be built up. There is some concern in Beijing that India is going to take a deal from the U.S., where they, in essence, say we will stop, trading in certain areas with China in order to pursue this policy, the U.S. policy of containment of China.
Right. Einar Tangen, thank you so much for joining us on the program, explaining us why China is pulling out its skilled workers from Foxconn plant in India, and how this is to actually protect the Chinese industry and also send a message to companies which have been heavily subsidized by the Chinese state as well. Thanks once again for being with us here on Global Lens.